Welcome. This is the Panda Consulting ArcGIS Workshops, and I'm Frank Conkling. Today, we're going to be looking at group templates. But before we look much further into group templates, we're also going to just sort of do a general review of feature templates, what they are, how to go and work with them. I've talked to some of our clients, and I talked to some people out at the user conference, and there seems to be just sort of a general, not a misunderstanding, but sort of a lack of deep knowledge in feature templates and how to use them and such. So we're going to cover a lot of that, and hopefully we'll help you to understand a little bit more what they're doing. In the meantime, let's start off just by reminding everyone who we are. We are Panda Consulting, and if you go out to pandaconsulting.com, you'll actually get our webpage, and you'll see it says we're celebrating our 23rd anniversary. Actually, in about 2 weeks is going to be our 24th anniversary. And this explains who we are, what we do, why we do it, that sort of thing. In addition, there's an events page, which goes and talks about all the workshops we have coming up, and it also talks about what events we might be at and where we might be able to go and see you and talk to you. That's on a calendar type view. If you go to the workshops page, it actually gives you a more linear view, and it gives you links to older workshops so you can actually download and watch them. Finally, we have a YouTube page, and that YouTube page, you actually can go and you don't have to download the video. You can actually just watch it as you're at your leisure. Go ahead and subscribe to that. We're getting quite a few followers there, but it also, at this page on the YouTube, allows you to go and give us comments back, whether there was something you think we missed or something you want us to cover a little bit further. And that seems to be a good forum to go back and forth on here. So also, before we start, if you're here right now, as usual, we have Chris with Panda Consulting, and he's moderating. Chris, why don't you go and let them hear your voice?
How's everybody doing?
Yep. And so if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you want to just point something out, please go ahead and put it in a chat window, and Chris will interrupt me, and because I will tend to just ramble on. So hopefully we can show some meaningful things here. So let's start with, what is a feature template? When we go into ArcGIS Pro, and by the way, this is a carryover from ArcMap. When we go into ArcGIS Pro and we want to create something, the Create Features tab or pane actually goes and shows us what is editable, and what has been set up already that we can possibly go and edit things. And by default, it will list what feature classes you have that are turned on and are listed as being editable on your table of contents. And again, it'll use whatever symbology is in there. But if you really want to understand the power of templates, you'll recognize that there's several things that could and should be set beforehand. For example, I have here a series of simple lines, right? Nothing real fancy about them. If I go and do a select on these lines, you'll see that I've got different line types in here. 8-inch valves, 4-inch valves, 6-inch, pipes. I've got a series of them. And if I wish to be able to go and more easily create specific features that have those same sorts of characteristics, it really is much more efficient if I do that through the use of feature templates. All right, again, simple feature templates. And the way to go and create a feature template to replicate one of the attributes that you've already got in place is to first go to the Symbology tab. And on the Symbology tab, tell it that you don't want everything on a single simple, but rather you want to use unique values. And then tell it, in this case, I'm going to use the line type field. Now, it turns out in my in my actual feature class, if I look at this, my line type field actually has a domain on it. And that domain, if I look at it, actually has 3 values in it at the moment. So this allows me to go and set it up so those 3 values are taken care of when I'm going to go and do this. In addition to that, if you look, there's also this all other values. In the symbology, it allows me to go and have on here all other values in here, and that's under this more area. And I can tell it not just show the ones that are symboled, but also allow you to go and enter other values on here. So you've got this all other values showing up here. So once I have this simple, or excuse me, once I have unique values set up for the symbology on here, then it becomes a little bit easier for me to go and modify and create my feature templates. So again, feature templates, I don't have to have these selected as long as I have that shown correctly. And what I'll do is I'll go over to create features. And right now, since I have that symbolized, it will show it as those different symbols. If I go to the Manage Templates option on my Create Features and click on that, that will give me a list of all of the feature classes that are loaded into my project, not just any individual layer, but into my project. And I can click on it. And with that, I can go and do things like set the properties for these. And it's what's the name of this feature template? What tools are available to me? And in here, I can set, maybe I'm not going to use right angle tools anymore. Maybe I'm not going to do splits or radials on here. And I can actually set by going and clicking on this one radial button here, I can tell it that possibly this is the default tool. And you'll note as I go and change it, it changes the default tool on here. All right. So I'll go ahead and click on that. So with that, I've set the properties not for all of them, but for one of them. So I'll go in here and set the properties here, go to my tools, uncheck the ones I don't want and tell it to set that as the default and go here to my properties, go to my tools and uncheck these and set that as my default. All right, so with that, and by the way, I don't have to save this or anything. Once I set it in here, it's automatically set. So when I go in here and I go to create it now, when I click on here, everything that I click and everything I create will automatically be attributed with those values for me. So if I go in here and click on here, and then I look at my attributes, I can see it's already automatically attributed for me. What happens if I wanted to go and put additional things on here besides just that one attribute that it's symbolized by? I also have that capability in here. If I go to my manage again, and I go to my properties here, and instead of the tools, I instead click on the attributes, and this allows me to go and pop up the attribute window for this. And everything that I have checked here over on the side will actually be prompted or allow me to go and input values during my create features. So let's go ahead and do this. Now let's go back to create. And when I'm in here, oh, look, now when I go in here to create a 6-inch, I automatically can go and have those values in here. 9-inch does not have that, or excuse me, 6-inch does not have it. Only the 4-inch has that ability to automatically input that while you're creating it, rather than going and waiting until it's created and go back to the attributes. So important to remember is that these attributes are only stored for this first time. If you want recurring attributes, you'd go and set them up as a stored value in your manage templates or in your template. So in here, if I wanted to go and store certain things on here, I could go to my attributes and tell it, well, this value is maybe I want Frank to be stored there every time. Now, when I go back here, all right, now you'll see that Frank is the default in there. And I then can determine whether or not I want to change that. So there's a lot of options in here. Right now, this feature template, again, I can tell it under the properties, tabs defines what tools are actually being shown. And when I go to the attributes, and when I click on this box, those are the attributes that are going to be stored, both as they'll be prompted and those will be stored in here. And let's go one more time. And again, the tools will be set, including my default, and then also whether or not it's going to prompt you for here. And I'll just put those values in there now. So when I go to my feature templates now, again, depending upon which one I input, it will go and use as a default one of those values that I stored in here. So again, when you think about this, the way we used to edit in ArcMap is that we would put the geometry in. First, we'd have to tell it the tool we were going to use. Then we'd have to tell it what layer we were going to use. And then we'd create it, and then we'd have to select it, and then go back and attribute it afterwards. Well, by setting up a feature template correctly, you're actually going and combining all of those. You are defining what tools you're going to be using on here and giving you the option to use different types of tools. You're defining what type of attribution is going to be at least stored as a default, but you're still giving it an option to go and be modified as you're building it. So for example, perhaps I want this to be Frank instead on here. And now when I go in here and build that, it will go and do that. And let's go back here again. And you'll note it went back to Joe, even though I had set that one up with Frank. So again, by using the feature templates in a very, very smart way, you can now set it up so that you have the feature class is going to be stored into. You've got the default tools and only the tools that you're going to be using for it. And you also then have the ability to go and have it prompt you for new values in there, or the ability to go and just set the default and only change them when there's a difference in that value. Again, it's a really, really smart way of going and building a feature template to make your editing so much easier. And by the way, this works against any types of feature classes, any types of feature services, anything that you're going to be editing inside of ArcGIS Pro. In feature services, feature classes, shapefiles, geodatabases, anything works the same way. You want to remember, though, that these settings are actually stored in your project file. So if you want someone else to have that same sort of settings for you, you can either go and share out your project file, make a copy of it, and let someone else go and open it up and edit with it, or you can go and share it out by going and sharing as a layer file or as a layer package, or if it's up on the web, you can share it out as a web layer. Again, there's lots of different ways to go and share things now inside of ArcGIS Pro, and so that you don't have to redo this work over and over and over again. All right. So I think we're good at this. By the way, while we're in here and looking at this, let's go back here to create features and let's pull up our manage again. And notice there's nothing here for this one. There is none for all other values on here. Can we create one for there? We can go and look at it and say, hey, maybe we can have it copy this, and it's just going to go and create this for whatever is set there, and it's going to keep those on here, but it will not create one for all other, for those non-committed elements in here. So with a feature template, you want to be aware that you might set one up here that has a new value, just sort of nothing on there. It's up to you as far as how you want to do it. If you want to create one with just a new template on here, and you can tell it what values are stored in there, we can do that. Let's make this the 2-point on here. Attributes. We're not going to have a line type. We're going to have nothing in there. Notice that it makes me put something in there in order for me to go and create this. Oh, let me go in and make this the values on here. Then it should allow me to go and do this. And I've set it up with null values in here. So now I have a feature template that has, if I go in here and check, it has no attribution in here. And it's just a simple line on here. If I look at the attributes, the line type is not set, nothing else is set. So by default, it doesn't have that one that doesn't show up specifically. It's for all other values. You can create your own on there. All right. One more thing that we might want to talk about, and this is a line feature class. And one of the things you want to recognize is that there's some other options set up on here. So if I go to this option, this opens the active template on here, and this allows me to set values that are temporary or within a session, including what attributes are set. But with a 2-point line, you have an option to go and tell it whether or not to continue a 2-point line or whether each individual line stands on its own. So how you set that is going to be dependent upon what type of features you're attempting to represent. In this case, these are pipes or lengths of pipes. So you probably want to stop with each one and then reconnect up. But it could also be, for example, when you're doing COGO and you're inputting things like a parcel boundary, maybe you do want to continue. And if we go and set it up to continue with that, if we go in here now and we go and continue, notice it's going to continue to rubber band off of this. So that setting, by the way, is on, if you click on this arrow here, it will go and allow you to set that for all of these. So I may go and set this so that this one continues, but the others don't. All right. So templates, really, really nice. If you're just starting out, they're a little overwhelming. If, however, you're used to editing now, there's some real power to them that often we don't explore. Let me show you one more thing, though, that can cause you problems. And it will often go and be confusing the first couple times you see it. So let's go and clear this out so we don't have anything selected here. Notice that these all have different symbology. They have different values stored against them. If it turns out that I turn off my feature class so that it's no longer editable, it will not display in the create features. It only will display those available feature templates for you to edit them. So if you've got a layer turned off, you will not see that layer unless you actually can edit it at the time. In the same way, if I have a definition query set against a feature class, all right, and I say that the line type has to equal 6" and I apply it, all right. Now, when I go and do this, I only see one 6". If I go to create, go back here and I try to do any of these, it will give me an error message, excuse me, a warning saying that things that I create may not be available because my query is set to line type equals 6. That is new in ArcGIS Pro 3. It would basically not show them before in 2.9 and below. Now it will actually show you all of the templates for this, but it will give you an error, or excuse me, a warning. So in here, since I have the definition query set for this, it will allow me to go and put them in here. But if I go on something else, it will create it, but it will not necessarily display it. Again, giving me this warning that the new features that you create may not be visible because of this, because they don't satisfy the same layer definition query. So again, it's one of those things that's a little quirky about it, but once you get used to it and understand how it works, there's my new feature, by the way. Once you understand how it works, you'll understand why it's set up like that. All right, I think we've covered feature templates pretty extensively now, and I think that that will help you with that. But that's not the full power of a feature template. That's sort of the simplistic way we've got. We now have new capabilities on here. And if we go to our managed templates, we can see that we also can create other types of templates. All right, in which I can go and create a new template from selected features. Let me go in and select that. I think I can create a new block template here. Template from the layer. And it will let me go and create, once I've selected one of my templates, it will allow me to go and add additional components to it. So I can create what's called a group template. A group template goes and allows you to create multiple features at the same time using rules. All right, so let's go and create a group template for this other template, other values on here. So once I have it selected, I can go to group template and we'll say, okay, now here is my, what's the name of this feature template? I can call this, let's call this sewer lines, just to be a little bit more descriptive. And again, I can tell it what types of tools I'll be using, whether or not I want it to default to continue or not. But really the important thing is this element here, this builders. All right. So I can go and add and tell it that I want to grab manholes and I want to go and add a manhole at the ends of the line. And here's where I can tell it whether I want it to be at the beginning of the line, at the end of the line, at every vertex except the end, at every vertex except the start, at every vertex except the start and the end. So those are interim vertices, at every vertex or at every intersection. Let's go and just do it at the end right now. All right. And let's leave it at that and actually see what this thing does. So if I go to create, I now have a new template. And this new template, when I go in here and start building it, when I put a line in, automatically it will go and create that additional point on there. All right. And so that every If I go and snap to that and create another one, it goes and puts a new point there. And I can define using additional feature templates, different types of manholes if I want. So I can specifically tell it what to put at the end of this line and where to put it at the end of this line. All right.
Frank,
Now,
we have a question in the chat.
yes,
Does that manhole have the attributes of the manhole layer?
it does not at the moment. I haven't done much to it on here. So what I might consider doing, and again, this is building upon all the tools that are available to us now, perhaps I might look at saying, well, let's go and tell it to automatically attribute this by using an attribute rule that says when you go in and add one, to automatically go and capture the attributes of the line that it's at the end of and populate that also. It's going to be a little bit more than we're going to do on this one, but you can do it by, for example, and let's do a simplistic one here, just by going in here and creating an attribute rule that says, and again, it's going to calculate it. We're going to add a rule here, and it's going to say that rule is going to be called calc ID. And oh, I don't even have any real, I'm going to delete this out. I'm going to delete that. Let me go back here. Save changes. No. All right. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add some attribute fields here. And I'm going to call this one ID. It's just going to be a text string. Another one might be a type. And I can make this I can put a domain on here or whatever. Again, I just want to go and show you something for illustrative purposes, just to see what's going on here. Good question, though, on there. I like that. All right. So on here, let's go and add an attribute rule, though. That add a rule. Let's just call it calc type. And we'll put it in the type field. And we'll just tell it to go and put a value in there. The value being a regular manhole. Now, again, an attribute rule uses arcade for all calculations. So we could tell it to go and do a calculation and figure out what line is at the end of it, and then populate that field with it. You want to be careful because you might have multiple lines in there, not just one or two. You might have 5, 6, 7. So you want to think about this a little bit more. And then I'm going to put some triggers on there, one for when I create it and one for when I go and modify it. And let's just save it. Oh, it doesn't have global IDs. That's, by the way, is what it's going to tell me here. Attribute rule requires global IDs. Let's go in here. Let's go to our database again. And let's go here and manholes. Let's manage this and tell it to go and add global IDs here. Now that we've added global IDs, let's go ahead and save this, and it will save it for us. All right. Now let's try it. So if we go to create, we have sewer lines here. That sewer line, we can go and populate it. Now, when we populate it, there's our manhole, and our manhole now has the value of regular manhole. That was put in there by the attribute rule. Again, the combination of feature templates, group feature templates, attribute rules, when you start combining all of this functionality together, it becomes really, really powerful. Attribute rules with arcade intersects, the ability to go and take features that are on top of other features and get those values in there, it becomes ultra powerful. You can design your own data structure and how it interacts and your own rules in there, what you're doing. You could even design things such as telling it that a manhole has to be a certain type of manhole. So we could modify this and have one for a certain type of manhole. We could have another feature, a group feature template for a different type of manhole. Again, we could build upon this as we're going forward on here. All right. So group templates, again, ultra powerful on here. We wanted to introduce a concept of when you go and build something, when you go and create something with a template allows you to go and define the attribution on here. It allows you to define what's also connected to it. Let's go and modify this a little bit more. Let's say that.
Frank, there is another question in the chat when you have a moment.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you populate the manhole with attributes from the main?
You can if you use an arcade intersect feature set to do that. You first have to calculate what feature is intersecting that manhole because they're really not connected. So you could do that by doing a sort of a point intersection against lines that are underneath it and see which lines are intersecting it. And I want to build upon that. I'm not going to do that right now. That's a little bit more intense than what we have. We may have to do that on another grouping, but let's go and add another element here. Let's go and add another manhole, and let's put this manhole, all right, at every intersection that we come into and offset from the side of the line. We can actually offset it from the side of the line here. Let's just go do that. All right, let's just right now, if we go and create a new line, and it's going to have it has a builder that automatically will go and input one at the end of the line. But let's see if that new builder actually allows us to go and put it in that second one. I don't see it at the intersection right now. I may not have done that correctly. Let's get in here again. Let's go to properties of the builders. And let's go and edit this. Before an offset, none intersect, position along the line, that there's an intersection. I wonder if that intersection has to be a planarized intersection. Let's go and see. If we do a planarized intersection, that's going to go and let's see. I wonder why that's not working. Let's try it one more time. Let's do it here. Nope, still not working at it. Let's go and take these two and planarize them. Let's see if that's doing it. That should go and put them. Nope, it's not doing it. It's only doing it with the build, with the first build on here. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Point at every intersection. Optional, we can do these vertex before the offset. So I wonder if because there is no vertex in here. By the way, you can tell that this is not in any way scripted. Nope, Still not getting it to fire off on there, but there should be a way to go and have it automatically go and populate something. Let's create another one instead. Let's do it on this 8-inch one. And let's go here on the 8-inch one, and let's create a group and tell it intersect builder. Let's do it. And this time we're going to add a new manhole. And we're going to do it at the intersection. All right. Let's go in here. Let's go to the intersection builder. Nope. Not doing it. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not 100% familiar with all those builders. I'm not quite sure why it's not building it now on that builder. What the other requirement is on here. We can tell it to do it at every vertex. Let's put it at there. And now when we go and do this, and let's create this type of it will go and put it at every vertex except the end on here. And that's one line in there. So, and by the way, let's look and see the attributes. If any of these manholes, they do, because we have it overall in the manhole, we'd only have one type of manhole. It's going and populating all of those with the regular manhole on there. All right. So you can see there's a lot that can be done with this, and it really I'm imploring you, if you're really interested in this and seeing how you can utilize not just feature templates to help you be editing more efficiently, but also group templates. If you've got multiple things that always end on the same thing, or you always want to do it several things at the same time on here. Again, please explore this. You can see I just fumbled around for a little bit, and I can go in and create a lot of different things in here. It's one of those things where it's just the more that you go and explore, the more you recognize all the power that Esri has built into these templates and into ArcGIS Pro. Every single day, there's new things that I discover that's on here. Do we have any other questions or anything else? This might be a short workshop.
There isn't anything in the chat right now.
All right. So before we stop, is there any other questions? Anybody have any last minute questions? No. Otherwise, let's go ahead and end it now. And thank you all for showing up. Thanks for attending, and we hope you enjoyed this workshop. If you have questions, would like some more details about anything we discussed during this workshop, or if you or anyone at your organization would like information about training, support, or ways in which we can help you with your GIS needs, please contact me at frank@pandaconsulting.com or call me at 561-691-3277, and we can discuss how we can help you with your needs.